There are so many mysteries still left in Nova Scotia.
Through the years, I can't imagine the treasures that were collected on the island.
It washed out the remains of an old boat of some kind.
This like mysterious ship that they thought might be a Viking ship.
If you got something you want to go see on the beach, go and get it before the tide takes it.
If it did turn out to be a Viking ship, it would change the history of the South Shore.
What's the plan? Where are you guys headed? Why are we walking through the woods, guys?
I don't know, we just found these strangers and we're following them wherever they'll take us. They said they have a cabin in the woods.
Sarah, Jen, and myself had been previously to Shag Harbor to go diving at the UFO crash site. So this was actually our third time to Shag Harbor. I think this story starts with our buddy Laurie missing us. Laurie is a Shag Harbor local.
He was one of the eyewitnesses to the Shag Harbor UFO crash.
He is now a good buddy of ours, and he runs the Shag Harbor UFO Museum.
To be honest, part of me was like, Laurie just wants any excuse to get us to come back down to Shag Harbor. And he knows that the three of us are always up for adventure, like a little bit of mystery. Like that is what reels us in.
I was sitting at home and Laurie pings in on Facebook Messenger, and it was just this random picture of a man standing by some wooden curved planks. He's like, I'm gonna give you a call. And I had a 41-minute video chat with Laurie about what this photo actually meant.
He mentioned that he had a friend who he grew up with named Freddie.
He was telling us all about these fragments of what seemed to be this like mysterious ship that they thought might be a Viking ship.
That's what they thought it was. There's shipwrecks here on the coast everywhere. We ain't the first ones here. A long while ago, somebody was here.
And Freddie has a hunting camp on Outer Island, which is just off the coast of Shag Harbor.
I was probably 10 years old the first time that I went to the island. Over time, the island changed so much. 3 to 4 years ago, the sea beat the back of the beach down into a big pond that we called the saltwater pond. And from that time till now, it washed out the remains of an old boat of some kind that were put together with wooden pegs. At first, I only seen a bit of it. In the next year, more of it, and then last year, more of it. It was laying there. It was roughly about, I would say, between 20 and 25 feet long. And it's been buried. That's what kept it so long, you know, in that kind of a condition. Through the winter, the sea came in, moved it, broke it up some. But the remains of it is still around there. There's a lot of pieces. Living in a community of almost 300 years, they never ever built any boats around here with that design with wooden pegs.
I'm, of course, interested in any evidence that there were Norsemen in Nova Scotia. Technically, the term Viking refers to raiding villages and killing people and stealing their gold. Historians tend to prefer using the term Norse. The people who did that didn't do it 365 days of the year. Most of the time, they were farmers and merchant people as well.
Around the time of the 1800s, they were using a hybrid of metal and wooden pegs. Way back in the day before, it was all wooden pegs.
But this is what we'll bring to the experts because we're just here to have a good time and explore. That's our job.
The word trenail is a compound word of tree, nail. So a nail made from a tree. Really, you have to go pretty far back to find a boat without any metal fasteners at all.
Look at that power stick.
Yeah.
You coming on or what?
No, I'm gonna watch you
Captain
go.
Morgan? What are you doing?
Do you need me to hold your hand as you come down?
Yes, always.
Oh, my.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, my grandfather always said, you know, if you got something you want to go see on the beach, go and get it before the tide takes it. I got to go get to this thing. Like, I really got to investigate it because that's going to be gone in a matter of hours.
Nova Scotia has so many shipwrecks. It had a really vibrant shipbuilding and seafaring tradition for so many years, so there's wrecks all over the place.
The technical name of the island is called Bon Portage, and it's actually owned by Acadia University.
Acadia's ties with Bon Portage go back decades. Bon Portage is an excellent experiment at island conservation. It's dynamic in that, of course, you've got wave action, you've got wind action, and so on. It's a great experimental model for looking at climate change, how ocean environments are being shaped.
Several hundred years ago, these islands may be 10 times as big as what they are. In my 60 years on that island I think is almost shrunk by half.
The sands especially, but also the boulders, are being moved around, especially by the big storms. And so a beach could be here one day, gone the next.
The area was eroded a lot, so it's kind of created this bay that's trapped this wood in.
That was never part of the pond. That was all dry land.
And the thing is, in the North Atlantic, like, there's such volatile weather that at any time, things can get stirred up and spit out and chewed up.
It's a place where a lot of things wash up. At any given time you go out, you find dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of lobster pots that wash up, so it catches things. Through the years, I can't imagine the treasures that were collected on the island.
I think the vessel has been there for a mighty long time. I'm sure there's people that can really truly find out how old the wood is, and that will give you a better idea of who was here.
Anybody you talk to about Bon Portage, you talk about the passion for the island. It has quite a very, very rich history.
Yeah, all the islands out there all had settlements on it. Duck Island, the one out to the western of it, that houses on it. My father can remember the houses being there.
120 years ago, there was greensod houses. People lived on that. Roll back 500 years ago, that island was probably attached to it. That was a big island, because you can go to low water mark on this island now and find tree stumps. So, you know, that island was really a big, big place.
Freddie is such a lovely gentleman. He thinks a lot of his history comes from the Vikings. He was telling us that everybody's always asking him and his family, where did he get those blue eyes? And when you look at his eyes, it's actually like looking at glaciers.
I had research done about my heritage and things. There was a small community on an island for 150 years. It was a really strong culture of people. Everybody used to help each other. Not that way no more.
He just wants to know his history, and he wants to carry on that knowledge to his future generations, to his kids, his grandkids.
There's a lot more history in this area than most people know.
There's probably a lot of voyages that happened that archaeology really is the only chance we have of ever having any clue about.
So long! Go find a Viking!
So we're always on the lookout for that smoking gun, if you will, of the Norse presence in Nova Scotia.
So we went out on Bubba's boat, Freddie's son. So he took us out about 100 feet or so from the land, and then we got on a smaller boat with a little motor on it, and that took us right to the shore.
I couldn't go ashore. I'd like to have been ashore there, but you know, I went through an operation a couple months ago, and so I didn't want to go ashore, because all it takes one bad slip or something and get hurt.
Here. Island all to ourselves.
The island itself almost has like a magical feel to it when you get there. When I first walked into the island, I was like, holy crap.
You see all the birds? Yeah, there's so much talent. We think there might be like a few birds' nests here, so yeah, that'd be really. I really don't want to get attacked by seagulls.
Laurie said there used to be a big pond when he was young, and now the whole landscape has changed so much that the pond that used to be there is now completely gone.
The coastline is always changing. As the storms come through, they will transport sediments along the coast. They will wash things out to sea. They will push things up on the land.
There.
The roadie. So the pond is over there?
No, not that. Yes, that pond. We got to go there to the other pond.
There's two ponds.
There's all kinds of ponds on there.
So it's also referred to as Bird Island because it's a really important place for mating and nesting of seabirds.
Birds would basically collect on the island just to get a break from the storm. The variety is amazing. And because it is probably one of the first places they encounter when they're coming in off the sea. You know, this is your last exit before the mainland kind of thing. So It's a phenomenal laboratory for biological research.
Oh my God, look at these eggs! Oh my God, there's oh my God, there's a baby!
Shut the front door.
The eggs themselves were spotted and kind of brown, and they almost looked like miniature, I guess, ostrich eggs. Yeah.
Oh my God! Sarah, come on this side. He's coming through.
They're so freaking cute. I never thought I'd love a seagull, and I'm in love with a baby seagull.
Does that smell you, Lori? Oh, nothing.
So the course, there's a course at Bon Portage that's been going for, I can't tell you how many years, but certainly more than 20 years. Basically go up the students, spend 2 weeks on the island, so it's sequestered on the island. Students would basically then talk to me and write a short essay about the environmental stressors on the island and how that would impact evolution. For example, if we have these freshwater ponds maybe inundated with salt water, that's going to change the whole dynamic. Those animals that cannot live in salt water will die off. So again, shaping the environment, climate change, how that's shaping the environment, changes in pH, acidity of the soil. As an ocean playground for scientists, it's fantastic. You don't get any better.
Freddie has a hunting camp on Outer Island.
What's the plan? Where are you guys headed? Why are we walking through the woods, guys?
I don't know, we just found these strangers and we're following them wherever they'll take us. They said they have a cabin in the woods. With tea. With tea.
Freddie's son, Bubba, took us to the camp they have on the island to warm us up and offer us a cup of coffee.
Yeah, now Freddie's at a camp there for probably 40 years now or more.
A nice little hunting cabin, really. It had like a bunch of bunks in it, had a stove, had some really cool lobster claws hanging from the ceiling.
So Laurie let us know that his family actually used to own the island, but sold it to Acadia University.
No, my grandmother and grandfather bought this all, I don't know what year it was now, moved on there and tended the light till they retired here.
To Morrill and Evelyn Richardson, right? The lighthouse keepers, and it was Evelyn Richardson who wrote We Keep a Light. And so she certainly has a history there.
He used to have cattle on there and they had their own chickens and eggs and milk.
Amazing what they went through. We're talking about before power grids and certainly before cell phones. And
Did you get to visit them here?
I used to go on every summer to stay with grandmother.
For the whole summer?
For a couple of months or so, but yeah.
That's cool.
We found old big ship beams and dead eyes and everything that come off of sailing ships that run ashore there. Where that ship is now, that was land there 3 years ago. That was buried under about 3 foot of sand or mud. 60 years ago when I used to start walking up around there, we walked over top of where that ship was found, where that washed out, that was all dry land. That would have been the bottom, ain't it? Like say, Freddie seen them in Newfoundland. The minute he see that, he said that's a Viking ship. Same thing I've seen in Newfoundland. That's why Freddie thought it was, since it's a Viking ship.
We walked probably like a kilometer or so across the island to get to the spot where all of the wooden debris had washed ashore, so it would have been quite the trek with all of our dive gear. Freddie let us know that it was quite shallow where a lot of the wooden fragments were, so there was no need to lug all of our heavy dive equipment out to the island.
There was a bunch of planks washed up on the beach as well as in the water. So it was neat to see before we got in the water itself, these planks that were kind of curved in a way were just washed up on shore. We noticed the wooden pegs right away and we noticed a few holes.
So what happens if we find metal?
Then it's not like we should.
And we'll be sad. We'll have a little cry.
But
I mean,
we're
there's
testing a hypothesis.
Yeah.
It's like science.
This is a wooden peg. So I was looking in here, around the bugs, to see if there was anything that was still left from holding the pegs in, like cotton, wax, anything like that. This hole where you can see right through it should have given you some indication of what was in there. It should be waxy, because wax won't go away in the salt water. I thought maybe, but it's very rough in there. Well, I mean, the curve alone, and you look at these other boards, I could see like why. I would think this would hold the other boards together.
Yeah. This one too is very curved.
Yeah, so I would think they would go like that.
Part of the hull?
Yeah, maybe.
Wow.
Wow.
Another piece.
got some girth to it.
To discover that there were Vikings here, like that would actually be discovering new parts of our history.
There are so many mysteries still left in Nova Scotia. The buzz was that this might be a Viking boat. There's probably a lot of voyages that happened that archaeology really is the only chance we have of ever having any clue about it.
There was tons of moss and even little plants starting to grow. There were like termites and little bugs kind of scattered on the wood itself. It was almost as if this wood was becoming part of nature. It was starting to degrade, almost like a nursery tree.
Let's get in the water, guys. We can see a little bit poking out there. I'm ready. It's perfect time.
Oh, years ago, that was all buried, whatever was there, though, was buried under sand. Before that storm washed it out, that was all like this. Where he's in water, that was all like this 4 years ago.
Upon first inspection, it didn't look like anything was there, but as we started to wade into the water, we did start to see a lot more debris, a few fishing planks.
That mysterious. A tire. Maybe that's a Viking tire.
As well as a little piece of wood kind of emerging from the distance.
We wanted to get it on the GoPro. We wanted to make sure that what we have recorded is actually factual, just in case it does wash away. It's broken up and degraded, but it's still intact.
Yeah.
In a weird way. It's not light, I can tell you that.
It definitely looks like a boat.
Viking ship.
Maybe.
The Vikings are gonna come after us.
Ooh, I like this one. And look at the worm markings. Yeah, like
Those are. I bet you that's Viking.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. It's a message.
I think that's a Viking language.
It's a message from the past. That's definitely worms.
Atlanta,
That's Viking marks.
And then once we found the structures, we didn't want to disturb it too much, so then we put our masks on and started to explore beneath the water.
I did use my metal detector just to scan it to see if there was any metal, but there wasn't any metal. I don't think there is any metal in these wood structures that look like they're from a boat. Definitely a Viking ship.
Expertise. Yeah, 100% a Viking ship.
Totally, it's like a main rule of thumb diving that we'll like never take anything from the ocean besides debris. But what's happening because the wood fragments are so shallow, they're getting washed ashore.
I wonder if we should take it and see if anybody can tell us how old this wood is or what kind of wood it is. No, it's leave the bugs.
We could really learn a lot about what ship this wood was potentially from.
What service?
You would make a very good sea dog.
Me? I was born for the ocean.
I think now I'm excited to learn more about Viking history and even explore that museum in Newfoundland with the Viking replica.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go to Newfoundland, huh?
Yeah.
If it did turn out to be a Viking ship, it would change the history of the South Shore.
We saw so many pieces of the boat like washed up on the shore. And then when we went into the water, we saw like a really, really big, like it's probably like 4 pieces connected together.
Yeah, but you said seen the level.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the pictures off of my phone.
Yeah.
It showed like the whole bottom of it. The last couple of years I've taken pictures of it.
We flipped.
In the piece of wood that had 2 of the pegs, I brought Freddie one of the pegs and his eyes just lit up. Like you could tell it really meant a lot to him to get to hold the peg. He held it like it was his firstborn, just with awe and admiration in his eyes.
They put it in, but they put a cut in here, and then they take another piece that's tapered and drive it down into it to make it expand. That's probably about the oldest piece of boat I'll put my hands on. The more we find, the more confusing it gets. Ends up being too many questions and not enough answers.
There's so much about history and the oceans. All of these years later, we still don't know. And that part of it really keeps me excited to keep exploring.
You know, it's changed. Everything changes, you know. Time didn't seem to be much the same way with me. It seemed like you had all the time in the world as a boy. But when you get older, you don't have that time.
I think he deserves to have some answers about what they found, because it's really hitting home with him.
It is definitely a rush to sort of solve something, especially if they relate to something in your own life, like whether it's your ancestor or the place where you live that has some history.
There's all this interest now in local knowledge and understanding what local communities have to say, but a lot of the times that can just be kind of tokenized without actually taking interest in preserving that way of life.
If you really want to know what the land or the layout or what's going on, you need to talk to the local people, because they're the ones that are really connected with the community.
They live their lives at sea and they know these waters better than anyone. Just because they don't have a PhD doesn't mean that they're not super intelligent and knowledgeable about the waters that they spend their entire lives on.
I won't be here too many more times to this wharf. This time I'm going to retire.
So after Jen sent me a couple of photos, she also referred me to Lori. We had a discussion as well, and in the process of looking at these new photos and continuing the conversation, we could see on the photos there were little square holes, which in the 1800s, let's say, or the 1700s as well, nails were not round. They were hand forged, and so they were square. And so these square holes had nails in them, but the nails had rusted away and leaving behind only a square hole. We often want to feel a sense of belonging. We want to feel rooted. Nobody likes to feel like they are just a leaf blowing in the wind.
I feel like Shag Harbor has become like a home away from home, and I feel like slowly we're gonna know the whole community soon the next time we go.
Oh, I freaking love Shag Harbor. It's now got a special place in my heart. The people are so welcoming and inviting. It's just like I'm walking in with some old family members.
Lori will never change. He's got a rough exterior, and we had to remind him once again to not forget to breathe while he's talking.
Okay. Your voice goes in one ear and out the other.
But he was so kind. He knew we were coming down, and the day prior he went out and got some lobsters for us, and he cooked them all up and he poached them for us, and he made us some fresh chowder, and he had us all over to his house for supper afterward. He showed us really great hospitality, some nice South Shore, Shag Harbor hospitality. We can always count on that from our Shag Harbor friends.
I'll go back to Shag Harbor on a regular basis. I can't wait to hang out again soon.
It's much more comfortable humanly to feel connected to your community, connected to your family, connected to your history. It just brings a peace and a satisfaction to a person's life. So as you investigate these things, then it builds a connection. And the more connections you have, then the more connected you feel.
And we're set to go back a few more times. I don't think we'll ever stop going back to Shag Harbor.